Hi, it's Tuesday, so here I am again with In the Company of Cards. I'm Erika Robinson. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. I'd love it if all of you would like and share the video. I'm really hoping that the channel grows. So just a couple of housekeeping things before I begin. I think I have three or four questions that I want to look at today. But before I do that, I just wanted to tell those of you who are new, as well as those of you who have been here for a while, I want to remind you about the nature of this channel. This channel is uh, kind of along the same lines as what I do on Substack in writing, is meant to sort of help steady all of us during these difficult times using the Oracle Lenormand. And when I say steady us, what I do with Lenormand is I do both predictive readings and also commentary with the help of the cards. So what it's not is a teaching venue. Um, and I know that it might seem sometimes as though I'm teaching you a class in Lenormand. Sorry about that. I can't help it. I am a born teacher. I'm a teacher by vocation. I taught for 30 years, literally every day in a classroom. Um, but this channel is not that. This is about prediction and commentary on the events that are affecting all of us, both nationally and internationally. To give us some direction, some guidance, some hope, um, some clear-eyed perspective. Now, it's not to say that I will have left you out in the cold after I've just said this is not a teaching channel. Attached to this video and all my videos are links. And in those links, you will find ways to find my book, The Language of Lenormand, which is just like me holding your hand and walking you through how to read Lenormand. Uh, a link for my deck, which is called Erika's Lenormand of Hope. And that's the deck that I use to read for you. But there are many, many beautiful Lenormand decks out there. So, do your due diligence research. But this is my deck. I also have an evergreen course online. So that means that it's not in real time. You can take it at your leisure, at your own pace, but it's me on the video, again, walking you through the steps that you need to learn in order to get your feet wet with learning Lenormand. So there are, several sources available that you can find in my links. So I just wanted to say that. So what are we looking at today? These questions are all viewer questions. Uh, and so let's just get right into it. The first one is kind of a tripartite question because I want to look at North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia. And I just want to pull three cards for each state. And the question that I'm asking, here I go in teacher mode. um, Lenormand loves a good question. Uh, you don't want to just say, oh, let's see what the cards say, and then pull cards, because what's the context? It's like anything. The universe is no different. The universe would like a context, like in relation to what, right? So Lenormand likes a good question. So the question is, will the Democrats win North Carolina? Will the Democrats win Florida? Will the Democrats win Georgia? Let me remind you again, and I do this periodically, another little teaching thing. Remind you about the fact that energy is mutable, meaning energy shifts and changes. So what I tell you today may not be true in a week, which is why sometimes I'll look at questions more than once. Things happen. For example, we all knew Mark Robinson was a um, person of questionable repute, we'll just say. But he's the lieutenant governor of North Carolina. Somebody elected him to that position or named him to that position or however it works in North Carolina, right? But then now all this other stuff comes out about who he is. And, now people are getting a little bit leery of him. There's a line that comes from a play. The play is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. And it is about the events that took place during the witch trials in Salem in 1692. And Arthur Miller, who was a playwright from the 1950s, wrote about 1692 to make the case that what was going on during the McCarthy era was kind of the same sort of mass hysteria, ridiculousness that ended in disaster. So it was sort of a warning, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, it echoes. And so he was reminding us about that. And there's a line from that play that I often think of. The hero of the play, one of them, the male lead, so to speak, is a guy who was a real guy named John Proctor, and he was a farmer. And he got caught up and was accused of being a witch. And so when all of this hysterical nonsense was going on and people were being accused, and uh, he said, "We are as we always were, only naked now." And I think of that line quite often. Why do I remember it? Because I was an English teacher for 30 years, just saying. Had taught that play many, many times. But why do I think of it often now? Because we've always known who 45 is. I mean, I was raised in New York. Um, I left right around the time that he was sort of entering his ascendancy in the social and real estate world in New York. So this was back in the 70s. Um, but we've always known that he's a con man, at the very least, a con man and a cheat and a thief. But how do you get to be a good con man? Is that you can read the room. And he's very good at reading the room and telling people, well, he was very good, telling people what they want to hear. Okay. Mark Robinson, I guess, is the same type of guy. But he is, as 45 is, he is as he always was, only naked now. So the task that lies before North Carolina and for the nation in terms of 45 is saying, okay, these people have always been who they've always been. They've always been awful. We now see them naked. Are we still going to choose them? So North Carolina has some soul searching to do. So let's look at North Carolina first. And what I think I'm going to do. Yeah, I want to use all the cards in play. I was going to do it a different way, but I think I want all the cards to be in play. So we may be here for a little while. So this is going to be North Carolina. I'm going to pull 5. Okay. So we're going to let Spirit take over, or maybe not. You know what? I'm going to use the significator today. I'll save Sundays for the days that I don't use the significator and I let Spirit do it. But I'm going to choose the significator and I'm going to use the letter. I've often said that's the most frustrating card in the deck because, it's anything in writing, so to speak. But this time, the letter will stand for votes. And the question that I'm going to ask, and we'll have the letter in the center. Statistically probably be in the center. Will the Democrats win North Carolina? Okay. So as always, I cut the deck into three, and then I gather them up. And then notice the snake is on the bottom. That's interesting. Um, and I'm looking for the letter, and these will be votes. And I want to know, will the Democrats win North Carolina? Okay, so here's our letter. These are the two cards that come before, and then the two cards that follow. Okay. And I don't think I need to draw clarifiers on them. We have crossroads, sun, letter for the vote, the older man, and then the woman. Um, and I may draw one clarifier, we'll see, but I don't think I need to, and here's why. And I know I'm always saying I'm not being Pollyanna, but then I'll say something that will sound very Pollyanna-ish. So I'll let you decide, am I Pollyanna? Okay, we have the crossroads, we have the sun, we have the letter, which stands for the votes, we have the older man, and then we have the younger woman. Okay. I think that, here's what I think. I think that if all things were equal, and meaning if Roe hadn't been overturned, for example, if 45 sounded like he had a brain in his head, if Mark Robinson hadn't proven to be the dirtbag that he is, that things would have gone 45's way. But the very first card is the crossroads. And that makes me think, so South North Carolina was going along, going along, going along, and then hit kind of a fork in the road and decide to go another way. Why would they decide to go another way? Because of what I said, the quote that I used from John Proctor. We are as we always were, only naked now. The sun shows 45, Mark Robinson, the Republican Party that's continuing to support them both for who they really are, making North Carolinians say, course correction. In the center, we have votes. Here's 45. You know what? Here's Mark Robinson. But it's followed by young women. And what do young women care about? Freedom, autonomy over their bodies, for God's sake, in addition to a lot of other things. But it's interesting that I can mirror, right? I can mirror the last card in the line with the first card in the line. That just means sort of compare the two cards and make an assessment. Young women are are the people who are going to, and those who care about them, right? People who have daughters, aunts, sisters, mothers, um, are going to be the ones that turn North Carolina towards the Democratic Party. Because, and again, I could mirror the second card with the fourth card, people now see face to face what once we only saw through a glass darkly. Because, as John Proctor reminds us, they are who they always were, only naked now. So I'm going to say that North Carolina goes Democratic. That's my prediction. Okay. Now, another state that I want to look at is Florida. Because, I mean, they do have that governor, yeah. DeSantis, who is, what do we call him? DeSatan? Anti-CRT, well, he's a lot of things. And he came from Mickey Mouse. What? No, that's un-American. I'm just saying. So I would like to know whether Florida will turn. Now, I think my eye is twitching, and I think that it will be a heavier lift to flip Florida than it will be to flip North Carolina. Uh, but let's see, can Florida be flipped? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, I'm over here shuffling. I want to use the letter to stand for votes. And I want to know, will Florida go blue? Okay, so we'll look for the letter. Okay, so again, put them into three, pick them up, and then we're going to look again for that letter. Oh, now, remember, statistically, it'll come somewhere in the middle, but sometimes that's not what happens. So when it's the first card, what am I supposed to do? Well, it means that it's the first card. And then in order to get my line of five, I need to pull four more cards. Okay. We have the letter, the fish, the coffin, and the house. Okay. Well, I'm going to say, oh no, wait, and one more card, fifth card. Fifth card will be whip. Okay. Uh, now, again, statistically, the card that I'm looking for is the card that will be somewhere in the middle. That didn't happen, if you recall. The first card that popped up was the letter. So the other cards are the fish, the coffin, the house, and then the whip. Okay. So we know we're talking about the vote and whether it will turn blue. This is a highly charged emotional issue for Florida and for the rest of us. So fish is emotion. Now, sadly, the card in the middle was not the letter, which stood for votes. And that, I mean, I say sadly, not because it wasn't the one that showed up in the middle. I'm saying sadly because of what does show up in the middle. But, well, it's the coffin. Now, coffin can mean endings. And the first thing I thought of is, yeah, no, Florida won't flip. But I'm going to pull a clarifier. Uh, okay. All right. Notice what I said before I pulled the clarifiers. I said, sometimes this means endings. So I'm thinking, dun, 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 meaning Florida won't flip. But I pulled clarifiers. And the clarifiers that I pulled for the coffin were the crossroads, the child, and then my 45 card. But I'm reading it differently than I would have read it had I just seen the coffin alone. Remember, Lenormand never works by itself, a single card. This tells me, these clarifiers tell me, remember this one, we saw this in the previous question on North Carolina. Florida, at the very least, will come close to going another way, to wanting someone new instead of this guy. Now, the final cards in the line of five were the house and the whip, if you recall. I think that it could be a very close call. I can mirror the vote card, the letter, with the whip. There will be contention, I suspect, about the way this vote shakes out, arguments about it. It may not be clear cut. It may be one of those ones where we have to wait to learn where they came, what side they came down on. So I think that, sorry, excuse me, allergic to 45. I think that the message, the takeaway from this should be that we not give up on Florida, that we work really hard to get out the vote, to knock on doors, to send postcards. I'm doing a postcard thing myself. Because I think at the very, very least, uh, it'll be close and way, way, way too close for Republican comfort. Can we maybe try and just tip it over the edge? Remember what I said about energy. Sometimes when you know a thing, you see a trajectory and you like it, you can move towards it. If you see a trajectory that you don't like, well, then you can think about, well, what can I do to affect a change in this trajectory? I'm saying that the way that it looks is that uh, Florida will go red, but by that much. And I'm saying if it's by that much, can we not flip it blue? So I don't think it's nearly as clear cut as North Carolina. There is work to do in Florida. I think Florida could be flipped. Okay. Whoa. All right. So I'm just going to put the cards back. And again, this is how I do it. I just pick them up, put them in the larger pile. And this is as good as doing a bridge shuffle, you know, and go, I don't do that with my cards. Okay. So we have one in the win column, that would be North Carolina. We have one in the possible flip column, and that would be Florida. The last state that I want to look at today is Georgia, because whew, so much chicanery and um, double dealing and stuff is going on to make sure that 45 wins. I just want to know which way is Georgia going to go? Okay. Um, okay, here we go. Georgia. That's the bottom of the deck again. Huh. Yeah, but we're looking for the letter. Oops. You never read Lenormand cards reversed, by the way. I've seen some people try to do it as like a gimmicky thing. Personally, I think it's stupid. But anyway, that's another tale for another time. Um, and we are, remember, looking for the letter, which will stand for the votes of Georgia. So there's our vote card. And then the two cards to the left and the two cards to the right. Okay. Interesting. Uh, we have the fox, the whip, the ladder, the key, and the tower. Okay. Um, and I'm going to draw clarifiers uh, on the tower and also on the key. Okay. So remember that our line of five was the fox, the whip, the letter, the key, and the tower. So what's that all about? Fox, as I said, there is shady business happening in the Georgia State House, by the way, right? So this is a card for shady. This is the card for the State House. This is the first card. This is the last card of the line. Shady business trying to shift things in 45's direction. Okay, we have the whip. Of course, there have been arguments back and forth. There have been Democrats saying, wait a minute, that's shady, that's illegal, you can't do that. So a lot of arguments, which have been really important. If no other reason, they're important because they're bringing to light again John Proctor's comment. We are as we always were, only naked now. The naked abuse of power and position is obvious for everyone to see. Okay, so then I thought, well, what's the answer to my question? Let me draw clarifiers on Georgia, the vote in Georgia. So I drew three clarifiers for the key. Love the key because keys answer questions. Okay, we have the heart and we have the scales. Love this because the answer to the situation should be, people's love of democracy, people's love of equality and fair dealing. But guess what? Here, the coffin is about endings. I do not think that the rule of law will be upheld in Georgia. I think 45 could win Georgia. And then on the tower, I drew three cards. And so I drew the younger man, the mountain, and the garden. And to me, this is that corrupt legislature, and then the people who oppose it, right? The people who say, it's time for a new day. We need to turn the page. It's time to stop all this double dealing and chicanery. However, that energy is blocked. And what does that block? It blocks the people's vote, because that's what the garden is. And I can mirror the very first card in the line with this last card in the reading. So this is the people, and this is the Republican legislature, members of them, trying to usurp the vote. I think they could be successful. Again, let me remind you, is this mutable energy? Yeah. I suspect, though, less mutable than the situation in Florida. I don't think things look very good in Georgia. But if we see a situation we don't like, we have time to do what we need to do to try to turn it in a better way. Again, knocking on doors, doing postcards, talking to your friends, being informed about what's going on over there. It's not good. Okay, so we have one yes, one maybe, strong maybe, and one probably not. Okay. Okay. Another viewer asked me to look at the question of Ukraine and whether or not Biden will sort of give his blessing in a more overt way than he has now to Zelensky to make deeper incursions into Russian territory with bigger, more powerful weapons. Now, why would Biden do that? Well, the theory goes that if we give um, Zelensky and the Ukrainians permission, the means to make this incursion, it will show Putin that he can't win, which will theoretically hasten his seating himself at the negotiation table in a serious way. Now, I will say, I feel like I read on this before, not literally exactly this question, but kind of this question. And I feel like what I got was that now the lay of the land is different in terms of who the front runner is for the Democratic Party. I can't see Biden wanting to, at this late date, um, step on any uh, high-heeled or conversed toes, right? I think he may think, let this be a decision for the next administration. No, I don't want to step on her toes. I don't want to hamstring her. I don't want to lock her into any kind of position that, then she can't extricate herself from. So that's what I had seen on that. But again, energy is mutable. If you take nothing away, take the two things, the John Proctor quote, and take the idea that energy is mutable, which means you don't go to a reader to learn what's written in stone. You learn what the trajectory is, what the possibilities are, and the direction of those possibilities. If you like it, that's great. If you don't like it, change it because free will is a thing. So I think I'm going to do a 6 card yes, no. And the question is, prior to the election, will Biden green light Zelensky's further and harsher incursion into Russian territory with the idea that that will hasten Putin's approach to the negotiations and make the negotiation process more serious and intentional. Okay, so I'm going to pull 3 cards. These cards will act as houses. I am not going to teach you what that means now. Buy my book, buy my class, or for free, read my Substack. Would love it if you would subscribe over there, and you can see how I use the concept of houses. So these are the houses, and these will be the cards in the houses. This is a spread that gives me a yes or no, but with a little bit of detail. Okay. So we have as the houses, the heart, the young man, and the house. And the cards in the houses are Clover is in the house of the heart, Ship is in the house of the young man, and the Sun is in the house of the house. And Clover mirrors house. Okay, so that's the spread. Trying to get it so you can see it. Um, you know, again, energy is mutable. I think look, Biden is not going to get up and give a speech and say, so I've told my good friend Zelensky that he can bomb away at Russia with our stuff, with our weapons. He's not going to do that. There are more subtle ways of communicating to Zelensky, you have my blessing. And I actually think energy is mutable, right? The winter is coming, and winter is harsh. Maybe not here in Southern California, but God knows in Russia and Ukraine, and more casualties, right? Both civilian and military. Um, so I actually think the cards have shifted, and that I'm sure in consultation and conversation with Harris, I think that yes, Um, Biden will give Zelensky approval to go harder core into Russian territory with the intention of getting Putin in a serious way to negotiate, understanding that he cannot win this war. So there you go. Mutability in action. Okay. So I'm just putting the cards back into the deck. Um, Now, there is a question that I'm going to bring up, but I'm not going to answer it, and I'm going to explain why. I have talked about the Electoral College and its future, but I was asked by a viewer recently to look at the Electoral College and how it will affect this current cycle, how it will affect this presidential election coming up November 5th. I think that the energy around that is continues to be so mutable and in flux that it's not worth my reading on it now. I absolutely will read it maybe in the middle of October. I will look at it, but I think it's too early to look at that question now. All right, for my last question, I was asked by a viewer to look at the RICO case in Georgia uh, that the state has against 45. And the question was, will it go forward? And the other question is, will Fani Willis still be prosecuting the case? So, I mean, I feel like even though that's two questions, I can roll them into one. Uh, so I'm going to look, will Fani Willis, what is her future in regard to the RICO case? I don't want to do a yes, no on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look for her in the deck. I'm going to have her be the older woman and we're going to see what's going on with the RICO case. Is it going to move forward? Is she going to stay with the case? Will she be replaced? Let's just see what we get. Okay. And this will be the last one. So cards are shuffled, cut. All right. And this time we're looking for the older woman. Interesting, the rider is at the bottom of the spread, which is like news coming in. So we may hear soon something about this case. Soon, we'll see. So, okay, this is who we're looking for. So this is Fani Willis. Two cards that come before her, and the two cards that come after her. So we have the book, the fox, there's Fani Willis, the ring, and the coffin. Okay, I'm going to be pulling cards, as you can imagine, on that coffin. So I'm just going to move it up so you can see me, and I'm just moving the cards up so that I have room. And I'm going to pull clarifiers on this coffin. And I'm also going to move, pull cards on the ring. And I'll pull cards on Willis. Okay. So the first card in our original line of five is the book. Speaking of mutable energy, the energy around this situation continues to be mutable. You know, there are things we don't know yet. There are things that still have as yet to be determined. I mean, look, what you can do with Trump, some of it depends on whether he gets elected or not. He's not going to be elected. Take it from me. But, there may be waiting until the election, plays itself out. So there are things we don't know. And the coffin, again, when I just looked at the line of five, felt like the case itself ends. It could end. Um, But this is also, remember, the card of transformation. And I pulled some cards, so let's see when we get to that. So we have this I don't know card, the fox, prosecutor Willis, the ring, and then the coffin. Okay. Uh, I don't love this card here because, as you can imagine, his lawyers are still trying to do everything they can to get this thing tossed out. Not just tossed out, but continued. This is the fourth card, and I can mirror the second card with the fourth card. This is about delay, 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 continuance, 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 continuance. So they've been very good at doing that. Um, and I can mirror this book with the coffin, which is to say, we don't know what this coffin is yet. We don't know whether the case dies on the vine or whether the case gets transformed, redone, re charged or whatever. We don't know yet. Okay. So I pulled cards on three of our original cards. So I pulled three cards on Fani Willis, and we have the letter, we have the clover, and we have the anchor. I feel like I'm just going to say uh, she stays on the case. Okay. Um, I think she's going to stay on the case. Okay. Then I pulled three cards on the ring. So this is that continuance card, right? But the clarifiers are the ship, the older man, and the younger man. The continuance, this sort of circle that just never ends, finally stops and things move forward. But I don't think until after the election, of course, they do move forward. Here's this old Trump, and I think he is up against an a foe which has been energized. You know, it's as though these continuances, which are very frustrating, right, for us, the public, has breathed new life, not into him, but into the case itself. So that's not good for him. And then, of course, the question of the hour, what's this coffin about? So the clarifiers that I pulled are the key, the scythe, and the tower. Okay, so what's that? Well, anytime I see the key, I'm like, ooh, good. That's going to be the answer. And we have a decision by a court. So the case goes forward and we have a decision by the court. Again, not tomorrow, not next month, not the month after that, maybe after the holidays. Once we've all caught our breath and have a new landscape to be optimistic about. So I think Bonnie stays on the case. I do. Uh, I think the log jam that his lawyers have created will end, and I think new life will have been breathed into the case, and it will go forward. Now, notice that I didn't say what the decision would be because that was not the question. The question was, will the case go forward and will Fani Willis continue to be the prosecutor? And the answer to both of those questions is yes. So again, I would love it if you would like and share the video. Would love to increase the subscriber numbers. It really means a lot to me, I enjoy doing this work, but it's nice to see that it's reaching a lot of people. Again, if you would like me as your teacher, uh, go look at my about information. There is a course you can take, Evergreen, on your schedule. There is my book, there is my deck, and of course, there's information on how to contact me about a reading, personal reading, so that you can see how the cards function in your own particular circumstances. So thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.